Hey guys, today we have Mikhail Tal's legendary game. We're going to be analyzing it and going through how he played this brilliant attacking game. And let's get right into it, guys. So, Tal opens the game with e4, and his opponent, Jonas Fletches, responds with the Caro-Kann defense, c6. Tal plays d4, d5, mainline Caro-Kann, and here Tal has some options. He can either go knight c3, and enter the takes, knight f6, takes line, where black castles and white my castle queenside. He can play the exchange caro, or he can play the advanced caro. So there are many options. Tal opts for the move knight to c3. There's a trade, and now knight to d7 is played. So not the main line, which is knight f6, and there's also the bishop to f5 main line. Rather, his opponent opts for this, which there is a very interesting idea here with Queen e2, and there's a very famous trap after the move knight f6. There's simply checkmate, as the queen pins the pawn to the king. Anyway, so knight to d7, his opponent does not go queen e2 because he trusts Tal. Instead, his opponent plays knight to f3. Jonas, knight to f6 is played, and now here, Tal has some options. He could play knight g5, and maybe, in some world, try to play the alien gambit. Or he could retreat. I'm not sure if the alien gambit was a thing back in their day. Retreat to g3 or c3. C3 is a less viable option. As you can see, he goes to g3 because now he has the option to play c4 and bishop to b2. So now black plays e6. Bishop to d3 is played, and here black Jonas Fletch. I don't know. Now, here, black has many options in this position. There are a lot of moves. One of them is bishop to d7, bishop to d6, queen c7, b6, c5. I think g6 might also be a move to play bishop here. And there's obviously h5, h4. So here, Tal's opponent, Jonas, opts for the move c5. Now, this is a wonderful move because it hits the center, and it's making white make a decision. So, obviously, let's say if you play castle. Now here simply takes, and a move like bishop c5 would come with tempo. Back in the day, this was not considered too good. Okay, modern day engine, Stockfish 15, or Stockfish 16, says after knight b3, white is a little bit better after the sad move bishop to e7 and castling. But back in the day, this was back in like the 1900s, this was not a thing. So Tal plays c3. He's trying to go for something like this, and now here he can just castle, right? So instead, here, sorry, the exact thing that I just spoke about happened. Okay, so now here bishop takes d4 is played, pawn takes d4 is played, and here castles is played. So now, Tal has wonderful position. This bishop is horrible, stuck behind these two pawns, and white's pieces are just aimed all towards the king, right? Okay, so let's see how Tal beats his opponent and shows us how legendary he is. So he goes bishop to g5, activating this dark square bishop, pinning this knight to the queen. Excuse me. Here h6 is played, and here if bishop to h4 is played, there is this nice move g5, but actually the computer shows that this is actually not the best because of this nice move queen to d2, which pins the pawn, and if you take, now here queen takes, and white is slightly better because after takes, there's rook a, e1, sorry, oh my god, rook a, e1, with the idea of after, let's say, for example, pawn takes h2, now there's king h1. The idea is if you take with the king, there's queen here, sorry, not queen there, there's knight d4 check, winning the king and the queen. So instead, and if you take with the queen, now you're undeveloping your very nice piece. The queen on e6, so king h1 is played, and here, let's say, for example, rook to e8 is played just to move the king. Rook to e3 now, and this is unstoppable. It's not checkmate, but it's unstoppable to not lose all your pieces. Knight g4, rook g3, there's f5, now f3, and then you're just going to hang the knight. Let's just go down the rabbit hole, see what Stockfish has to say. Knight takes g4, rook to g4, and then checkmate. Okay, yeah, so queen a7 checkmate 1. Okay, so that's just one example of why you cannot, or why you should play bishop h4. But I highly doubt Tal would have found this. Not to discredit him at all, but okay, he chooses the slightly more normal human approach. Bishop to f4. Your knight to b6 is played, and bishop to c2. So the computer gives this move an inaccuracy because, or sorry, not an inaccuracy. Sorry, yeah, it's an inaccuracy. So the computer gives this move dubious, because the pawn's not actually hanging. So for example, if Tal would have played rook c1, queen takes d4 just loses the queen to bishop a7, and queen takes queen. So it's not actually hanging. This move bishop c2 is kind of lazy. I mean, I can see you're trying to put the queen on this diagonal, but again, it's just dubious. Point to the engine, knight to d5. Now white centralizes. The bishop's under attack. Whoa, the white bishop moves. Queen to b6 is played, and now queen to d3. Again, a little bit dubious move because there's no real intention of the move queen to d3. Because you're not checkmating your opponent. Like there's a knight here and there's a knight here. So even like takes. You're not checkmating, so it's very difficult to say why Tal played this move. I think it's because of the reason as follows, and also just knight here, knight takes bishop as follows in the game. And sorry, yes, I was gonna wait for the brilliancy, but yeah. So bishop takes f6 is an absolute brilliancy in this position because it's the only move that doesn't stop white from falling behind in the position. Let's say if, for example, white takes knight. You can already see the valuation bar is creeping, and it continues to creep. This is simply because you have an isolated pawn. White's pieces are finally going to get inside. Okay, that was a bad example. Say, okay, sorry. What just happened? Say, if white takes, if your knight to d5 is played, bishop d7 is bad because of bishop takes knight. So, yeah. And here, then knight to d5 can be played, and yeah, so this is bad because I'm not actually sure. Okay, let's see why. Knight e4, bishop d7, rook fe1, rook fc. Okay, so yeah, it's because of this whole initiative that black gets on the queen side. Of course. So now let's get back to the game. Takes is played because this is kind of a last resort. Here after the move knight takes a1 is played. Now, the only move in this position to not be completely losing for the black pieces is this very nice move, knight to h5. For example, let's say if you move your bishop back, now simply you're down rook. So now you have to continue this wonderful attack by playing the great move, knight to h5. e5 is played, activating the queen. So for example, if you take this with the knight, you lose the bishop. So that's why this move is played. And obviously if you take with the pawn, there's just g5. Stopping the queen from infiltrating. So takes is played, g5 is also played. E6, another brilliancy from Mikhail Tal. Because the idea of this move is so deep. It's that whatever you recapture with, the sack is coming. So let's say, for example, you take the bishop. There's a sack. Now after takes, queen check, king here, checkmate. And it's similar with the queen. Sorry, that would be bad. If you take with the queen, again, now here, here instead, there's this very nice move, bishop c3. With the idea to line up the queen on this diagonal. Let's say, for example, you play the move f6. Now here, you can simply chop the knight, and after this move, bishop d7, now you play this nice move, knight takes f6. After rook takes, there's bishop takes, and queen takes d7. And here, after this nice move, queen takes b2 from the black, there's queen e6 check, king h7. The black king is too far outside in the open to call any advantage. And here after the move rook to d1, white is completely winning with this incoming attack on the black king. So again, here instead, okay, so this will not happen obviously. So, okay, so here, queen takes is played. h3, another brilliancy from Mikhail Tal. Because this move, he could have taken the knight, he could have taken the pawn, we tried for some knight f6, he could have retreated the bishop, which is the best move. But no, Mikhail Tal, the man of his generation, finds the insane move, h3. So now let's say, for example, what does this move do? It's basically saying black cannot move. Say if bishop to d7 is played, now this idea of bishop c3, because after rook to here, rook to d8, Now there's this nice move, knight to f6, king here, and knight takes d7. Simply winning back the piece, and later on you can recapture the knight. Of course, instead, Mikhail Tal's opponent, Jonas Flesch, sees this coming, and he plays the very cool, calm, and collected move, queen to f5. And this is one of the better moves in the position, as you're trying to reroute the queen to g6, for example. But this is also slightly better for white, as you guys can see from the evaluation bar. And the material does not speak of this. +5, and it's +1. That means that white is up by 6 points positionally. That's absolutely mind-blowing. Rook takes knight is played. Now it's only 2 points. Bishop to e6. Black has to get their pieces developed. And now this very well-timed move, rook to e1. So let's say, for example, if white would have just played like a random move, like bishop here. Now after this nice move, f6, the attack is crumbling. You cannot sack. You would simply lose, and the black rooks are coming in. And Mikhail Tal might have even lost this game if this would have happened. So instead he plays the well-timed move, rook to e1. And this move, basically what it does, it doesn't allow black to put any pieces on d8, as the bishop covers that square. But instead, it sacrifices the a2 pawn, which is the top line of the engine. But now, there's this move, bishop c3, because now let's say if a move like rook to d8 was played, now queen e3 can be played. And you are coming in with the knight, and the queen can take on e7. So this is just a few reasons. So instead, his opponent plays queen g6, attacks this knight. So for example here, Mikhail Tal played queen c3, now he loses knight and lose the game. So that's just one example. So so g4 is the top line of the computer. Bishop takes a2 is the best, but his opponent goes for rook c8, which is this move is like the best a human can possibly do. Mikhail Tal was not human, like that's why he's beating this guy. This guy was playing Jonas Flesch. He was probably the best human of Mikhail Tal's generation. Mikhail Tal is an alien. He's just so much better than all of us. So he plays bishop c3, rook to d8, and here now Mikhail Tal plays the very nice move, queen to e3. There's so many options here. Queen e2 is also possible. But any other move is completely losing. Like for example, like bishop d4 loses to rook c4. Right, just hitting the bishop. Queen c1, you're just walking into a pin. And you have to try to get the queen to this e5 square. So instead, so Mikhail Tal plays queen e3. After the move rook to d3, attacking these two pieces. Maybe Jonas wants to take the bishop. Queen e5, rook takes. As I just said, so here it would have been very, 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 very slightly better to take with this rook, but to leave the rook back here. But okay, tomato, tomato, right? Rook takes is played, takes, and king to h7. So this effectively loses the game for Jonas because of this nice move, knight to f6. But what else he could have tried, maybe it was rook to d8. Now after knight f6, there's this nice move, king here. And like c4, for example, or queen c5 would have been played. But this would have been a very interesting game. So instead, his opponent blunders, but I mean, his opponent played perfectly so far. So I mean, I wouldn't call this a blunder per se. But king h7 is played. It's a mistake according to chess.com gain analysis. Knight to f6, king to g7, and now the very well timed knight to d5 check. This basically practically ends the game after this nice move, king h7, knight to e7. The idea with this move is the queen has to continue seeing the rook. Say if this queen went to f6. Bear with me. I know it's hanging. Now there's this nice move, queen e4, checking and winning the rook. So instead, you have to move the queen off the diagonal. Queen g7 is tried in the game after the move queen e4, which is I therefore stay. This is the only move to win. Everything else is losing, because you have bad structured pawns and also your pawns hanging. Queen to e4 is played, and here in this position, Mikhail Tal wins the game. So guys, I'm back here on full screen. This was an absolute masterclass from Mikhail Tal, the legend himself. He absolutely destroyed his opposition, Jonas. but credit to his opponent for having a well-fought game. Mikhail had a few inaccuracies with that bishop c2, queen d3, but it was all part of his master plan. And that's it for today's video, guys. See you guys later.